what exactly conservatives mean when they say they love America, because you hate most of the people who live here. You hate the civil liberties afforded by the Constitution. You hate the separation of church and state. You might claim to love its economy, but you hate all of the states that make up the largest parts of it. You hate the government. You hate people who are anti-government. You hate the rich because you think they're part of a conspiracy to your kids. You hate the poor because you think they're lazy. You hate this country's natural beauty because it gets in the way of industry. You hate industry because it keeps giving jobs away to immigrants. You hate immigrants for taking things you feel entitled to. You hate liberals because you feel like they're too entitled. You hate government interference for getting in the way of big business. You hate big business for being too globalized. You hate globalism for taking jobs away from American workers. You hate American workers for unionizing and demanding better jobs. When you say you love America, what aspect of America are you actually talking about?
So this TikToker points out something that I think is very critical to understand, because what do Republicans like about the United States? They pretty much hate everything about living in a society. They seem to think that they're the only real person in the world and that everybody out there should be completely responsible for taking care of their needs, while they shouldn't be responsible for anybody else's needs. Just take a look at mask wearing, for example. They seem to think that that is the greatest form of oppression, but as the Supreme Court talks about overturning Roe versus Wade, they're perfectly fine with that. So what is it that Republicans say that they like about the United States? Well, I'm going to go on a limb and say that Republicans love what the United States stands for. I'm talking about what the United States really actually stands for in the world, because we need to understand this. The United States was literally founded by and for white supremacists. All of the land that is part of the United States was entirely stolen from indigenous people through an extremely horrific genocidal effort to steal wealth. This was, of course, at a time where additionally people were literally stolen from Africa and taken as slaves. That is what the United States stand for. That is what the United States still to this very day stands for, because through our system of military violence, we force the rest of the world to participate in our economy. We are still actively stealing from the global south in order to reap the benefits of imperial violence. The harsh reality is that the United States has never stood for freedom. The United States never, in its entire history, has had universal voter enfranchisement. I mean, think about that. Never in the entire history of the United States has there been universal voter enfranchisement. Still to this very day, there are hundreds of thousands of people sitting in prison who are disallowed from voting, most of them whom are victims of an incredibly racist policing system that was designed for the explicit purpose of putting people of color in jail without cause or reason. That is the entire premise behind why the war on drugs started. So this is something that's critical to understand. The United States government itself has never had popular support. And when right-wingers say that they support the United States, that they are very patriotic and care about the United States, they are saying that they support the idea of rich white capitalists having hegemonic influence over the entire world and being able to subject people through military violence to their economic regime where they sit on top. This is why Republicans can, on one hand, hate basically everything about living in a society, while also at the same time claim to be incredibly patriotic. When they look at the past in the United States and all of the horrific things that we've done, they see that as a positive. They see that as a testament to the strength of the United States. And when we seek to change the United States, when we seek to replace the violent imperialist capitalism with something more humane, some might say socialism, they see that as an affront to the very values that the United States espouses. And this right here, I think, speaks to the central lie about the United States. A lot of liberals like to pretend that the United States has always stood for freedom and justice, and so they write a revisionist history pretending that what the United States did in the past isn't really who we are. Whereas the right wing, both at the same time, ignores that history, pretends that it's not real or overblown, but tries to maintain the mentality that created that history in the first place. The fact that both liberals and conservatives categorically reject and deny the history of the United States in different ways leads us to this point where there's this sort of conflict over the soul of America, as they say. But the truth of the matter is that the United States' influence throughout its history and throughout the world has been one that that is categorically negative. And no matter what pontification happens about the human rights that we respect and the freedoms that we have here, the harsh reality is, anytime human rights or freedom bumps up against capital, the United States always sides with capital.
This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with my content, you can follow me at Benjamin Carollo on Twitter. And for those of you that might be wondering or have noticed, my pronouns are in fact she, her.